Have you ever heard of a village buried by sand for thousands of years? Its secrets waiting patiently beneath the earth. Today, we're journeying to the remote Orkney Islands of Scotland to uncover the incredible story of Skara Brae, a Stone Age village so perfectly preserved it's often called the Scottish Pompeii. But this wasn't a city of fire and ash. This was a community swallowed by sand, a mystery that began with a single, furious storm. Imagine this. It's the winter of 1850. A massive storm, one of the most violent in living memory, lashes the coast of mainland, Orkney's largest island. The wind howls, the sea churns, and the rain comes down in sheets. For days, the storm rages, tearing away at the landscape, stripping grass and soil from a large mound known locally as Skara Brae. When the winds finally die down and the locals emerge to survey the damage, they find something astonishing. The storm has peeled back the earth like a lid on a box, revealing the ghostly outlines of stone walls. An entire village, lost for millennia, had just been revealed to the world. What they found was nothing short of a miracle. This wasn't just a few scattered stones. It was a complex of 8 houses, connected by low, covered passageways, all built from stone. And the level of preservation was mind-boggling. Inside these houses were stone beds, stone dressers, stone seats, and even central hearths for fires. It was as if the inhabitants had just walked out one day, leaving everything behind. The sand that had buried them had also protected them, creating a perfect time capsule of Neolithic life. Initial excavations began shortly after the discovery, but it wasn't until the 1920s, after another storm threatened the site, that a more serious archaeological effort was mounted under the direction of Professor V. Gordon Childe. It was Childe who truly brought the world's attention to Skara Brae, meticulously excavating and documenting the site. He revealed a society far more sophisticated than anyone had previously imagined for this period. These weren't primitive cave dwellers. The people of Skara Brae were skilled builders, organized, and deeply connected to their environment. Let's step inside one of these remarkable homes. Each house follows a similar design, a large square room with a central fireplace. On either side of the hearth, you'd find box beds, which were likely filled with soft heather and animal skins for comfort. But the most prominent feature in every home is a large stone dresser, standing directly opposite the entrance. What were these used for? Archaeologists believe they were a place to display important or beautiful objects, perhaps polished stone axes, intricate pottery, or personal treasures. It was a way of showing status or identity, a prehistoric version of a display cabinet. What's fascinating is the uniformity. The layout of each house is nearly identical. This suggests a highly egalitarian society where no single individual or family held significantly more power or wealth than others. Everyone lived in similar conditions, sharing a communal way of life. The village was tightly knit, both physically and socially. Covered alleyways that connected the houses would have protected the residents from the harsh Orkney weather, allowing them to move between homes without facing the biting wind and rain. It creates an image of a community constantly interacting, sharing stories, food, and warmth around their respective hearths. So, who were these people? Carbon dating tells us that Skara Brae was inhabited for about 600 years, from roughly 3180 BC to 2500 BC. That makes it older than both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Giza. These were Neolithic farmers. They raised cattle and sheep, cultivated crops like barley, and were expert fishermen, harvesting the rich bounty of the Atlantic. The sea was their lifeblood. Middens, or ancient trash heaps, found near the village are filled with the bones of fish, seals, and even whales, alongside countless shells from limpets and other shellfish. They were also skilled craftspeople. Archaeologists have unearthed a treasure trove of artifacts, finely carved stone balls, covered in intricate spiral patterns, mysterious objects whose purpose is still debated today. They also found beautiful beads made from animal bone and teeth, ivory pins, and pottery. These weren't just functional items, they were objects of beauty, indicating a culture that had time and appreciation for art and personal adornment. They had a sense of style, a sense of self. But this leads us to the biggest mystery of all. Why was Skara Brae abandoned? For a long time, the popular theory was a dramatic catastrophe. A sudden, violent storm, much like the one that uncovered it, was thought to have buried the village in sand, forcing the inhabitants to flee for their lives, leaving all their possessions behind. It's a compelling story. This image of people running from a massive sandstorm, the sky turning dark as their world is entombed. However, modern archaeology paints a different, perhaps more poignant picture. The evidence suggests the abandonment was gradual, not sudden. While there are layers of sand, they seem to have accumulated over time. The climate was changing. It was becoming colder and wetter. The encroaching sand might not have been a single cataclysmic event, but a slow, relentless creep. Imagine your fields slowly being consumed by sand, your grazing lands becoming less fertile, the storms growing more frequent and severe. Perhaps life at Skara Brae simply became unsustainable. Maybe the younger generations saw more promise elsewhere, moving inland to more sheltered, fertile areas. The village might have slowly emptied out, with the last few residents finally leaving their ancestral homes to the wind and the sand. It's a story of climate change and migration, a story that resonates powerfully with challenges we face today. The end of Skara Brae may not have been a single dramatic act, but a slow, sad decline. What Skara Brae teaches us is the incredible ingenuity and resilience of our ancient ancestors. They didn't just survive in a harsh, windswept environment. They thrived. They built a sophisticated, comfortable community and sustained it for over 6 centuries. They created a stable society, lived in harmony with their surroundings, and even produced art. The stones of Skara Brae don't just tell a story of abandonment. They tell a story of life, of community, of human creativity. In the face of a challenging world, it's a whisper from 5,000 years ago, reminding us of where we came from and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Today, Skara Brae is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a window into a lost world that you can visit and walk through. Standing there, on the edge of the Atlantic, you can almost hear the echoes of the past, the crackling of the hearth, the chatter of neighbors in the passageways, and the eternal sound of the sea. It's a powerful reminder that history is not just in books. It's written in stone, waiting to be rediscovered. Imagine a place frozen in time, a village swallowed by sand, its secrets locked away for millennia. We're journeying back thousands of years, to a world without written history, to a community whose story is etched not in books, but in stone. Welcome to one of the most astonishing archaeological sites on Earth, a prehistoric settlement perfectly preserved under a blanket of coastal sand. What we found here rewrites what we thought we knew about our ancient ancestors. These aren't just ruins. They are homes, complete with stone beds, stone dressers, and stone hearths, where families gathered, worked, and lived. This village offers a unique, intimate glimpse into a lost world, a society that thrived long before the pyramids were even a blueprint. How did they live? What did they believe? And why did they vanish? Join us as we peel back the layers of sand and time to uncover the mysteries of this incredible stone-built village. The first thing that strikes you when you walk through these ancient alleyways is how incredibly close everything is. The stone houses are packed together, sharing walls, creating a tight-knit labyrinth of passages no wider than a person. This isn't just a random construction. It's a deliberate design that speaks volumes about the people who lived here. In our modern world, we value our personal space, our fences, and our privacy. But here, the very architecture screams community. Neighbors weren't just people you waved to. They were an integral part of your daily existence. Their walls were your walls. Their survival was your survival. This proximity fostered a deep sense of interdependence. Think about it. In a harsh, prehistoric environment, being this close meant shared warmth in the cold, shared defense against threats, and a constant, reassuring human presence. The narrow streets weren't for carriages or cars. They were for people, for children playing, for neighbors sharing stories and tools. Archaeologists who have spent decades studying this site believe this layout is a clear indicator of a highly cooperative society. The shared walls aren't just a space-saving measure. They represent a social contract, an agreement to live together, work together, and face the world as one. There are no grand palaces or temples towering over modest homes. The houses are remarkably similar in size and design, suggesting a society with a high degree of equality. It seems there were no kings or powerful elites here. Instead, it was a community of equals, where resources were likely shared for the good of the entire group. This wasn't a society driven by individual wealth, but by collective well-being. Evidence found within the homes supports this. We find similar tools, similar pottery, and similar hearths in every dwelling. The craftsmanship is consistent, showing that skills were passed down and shared, not hoarded by a select few. This egalitarian structure is fascinating because it challenges the common narrative of early societies being dominated by powerful chiefs or a ruling class. Here, power seems to have been in the hands of the people, a united front against a challenging world. Let's step inside one of these remarkable homes. The level of preservation is simply breathtaking. You can see the stone bed platforms, where they would have slept on heather mattresses and animal skins. You can see the built-in stone dressers, with shelves to hold their belongings. It's like the residents just stepped out for a moment. In the center of the main room is the hearth, the heart of the home. This was where they cooked their food, gathered for warmth, and socialized. Analysis of residues from these hearths tells us they ate seafood like fish and shellfish, as well as meat from herding cattle and sheep. They were skilled farmers and herders, but also masters of the sea. The presence of small, separate rooms in some houses raises questions about their family structures. Did nuclear families live together, or were these homes for larger, extended family groups? Some archaeologists theorize that the smaller cells were for storage or perhaps workshops, where they crafted their intricate tools from bone and stone. Each home is connected by covered passages, allowing residents to move between houses without ever stepping outside. A brilliant adaptation for weathering the fierce storms that batter this coastline. It's a testament to their ingenuity and their deep understanding of their environment. They didn't just survive here. They thrived by building a world perfectly suited to their needs. One of the most intriguing discoveries is the absence of any obvious defensive structures, like walls or fortifications around the village. For a community living thousands of years ago, this is highly unusual. It suggests one of two things. Either they had no enemies and lived in a state of remarkable peace, or their defense was the community itself. Perhaps their tight-knit social fabric and remote location were protection enough. The spirit of cooperation is evident everywhere. Take the communal spaces. For example, we've identified larger structures that don't appear to be dwellings. One building, in particular, is set apart from the residential cluster and contains a great deal of workshop debris, broken tools, stone flakes, and raw materials. This suggests it might have been a communal workshop, a place where the entire village's toolmakers could gather, share knowledge, and produce the essential implements needed for daily life. This wasn't about one person outcompeting another. It was about equipping the entire community for success. This focus on the collective over the individual is a powerful lesson from the past. It shows a different way of organizing society, one based on mutual support and shared goals, which allowed them to flourish for over 600 years in this remote corner of the world. So, what happened to this vibrant community? Why was this perfectly designed village abandoned? The final chapter of their story is written in the sand that eventually entombed their homes. The climate began to change, and the coastal sand dunes, once a protective barrier, became a relentless enemy. Slowly but surely, sand began to encroach on the village, blowing into the alleyways, piling up against the stone walls, and making life increasingly difficult. Archaeologists have found evidence of the villagers' struggle against the encroaching sand. They built higher doorways and added new walls to try and keep the sand out, but it was a losing battle. Eventually, the sand won. The residents gathered their most precious belongings and moved away, leaving their stone homes to the wind and the dunes. They didn't vanish in a catastrophe. They made a calculated decision to relocate, to find a new place to build their lives. And so, the village was swallowed whole, its stone structures perfectly preserved, waiting thousands of years to be rediscovered. This village is more than just an archaeological wonder. It's a time capsule that offers profound insights into human resilience, community, and our ability to adapt. It reminds us that our modern way of life is just one of many possibilities, and that sometimes the most powerful tool for survival is each other. The story of this village is a powerful reminder of our shared human history. It connects us to ancestors we never knew, whose lives were so different, yet so fundamentally the same as our own. They loved their families, worked to provide for them, and built communities to support one another. The stone walls and shared hearths speak of a deep human need for connection, a need that transcends time. As we continue to excavate and study sites like this, we're not just digging up stones and bones, we're uncovering the very essence of what it means to be human. It's a story of cooperation, ingenuity, and the enduring power of community in the face of adversity. This village, once lost to time, now offers us a timeless lesson that Tokete. We can build things that last for millennia. An entire village, Reedbysand, untouched for thousands of years. What you're looking at is a window into a world long forgotten. A prehistoric settlement frozen in time. This isn't a movie set. This is Skara Brae, a real place. More ancient than the pyramids of Giza, more mysterious than Stonehenge. How did an entire community vanish beneath the dunes? And what secrets have been waiting for us? Preserved for 5 millennia. Today, we journey to the windswept Orkney Islands of Scotland, to a place accidentally revealed by a ferocious storm in 1850. A local landowner, walking along the beach after the tempest, stumbled upon something extraordinary. The stone outlines of buildings emerging from the sand. What he found would rewrite history. This wasn't just a single ruin. It was a complete village, with stone-built houses, interconnecting streets, and shared walls. A Neolithic marvel, perfectly preserved. Join me as we peel back the layers of sand in time to uncover the story of Skara Brae, Europe's most complete Neolithic village. Stone walls and hearths, whispering secrets of families who lived here 5,000 years ago. These aren't just ruins, they are homes. Welcome to the heart of Skara Brae. Stepping inside one of these dwellings is like traveling back in time. Forget any preconceived notions of primitive caves. The people of Skara Brae were sophisticated builders. Each house, remarkably similar in design, was built into the earth for insulation against the harsh Orkney winters. At the center of every home was a square stone hearth for cooking and warmth, the focal point of family life. But the real surprise is the furniture. They had stone dressers, beds built into the walls, and even watertight storage boxers set into the floor, possibly for keeping live bait or food fresh. It's a level of domestic comfort and organization that is startlingly advanced for its time. Can you imagine? 5,000 years ago, a family gathered around this very hearth, sharing stories while the wind howled outside. These passageways, linking one home to the next, weren't just for shelter. They fostered a tight-knit community, a society living and working together in one of the most remote corners of the world. What was daily life really like for these ancient people? What did they eat? What did they believe? And most importantly, why did they leave? So, who were the people who called Skara Brae home? They weren't just simple farmers. They were skilled craftspeople, hunters, and members of a complex society. Archaeologists have unearthed a treasure trove of artifacts that give us intimate glimpses into their daily lives. We've found beautifully carved stone bowls, their purpose still debated by experts. Were they symbols of status, tools, or part of a game? We've also discovered intricate jewelry made from bone and animal teeth, showing a love for personal adornment. Tools for working leather, pots for cooking, and grinders for grain paint, a picture of a resourceful community. Their diet was rich and varied, a mix of land and sea. They herded cattle and sheep, but they also feasted on fish, seabirds, and even whales, as evidenced by the whalebone artifacts found on site. These weren't people merely surviving, they were thriving. They understood their environment intimately, harnessing its resources to build a stable and prosperous life. The level of craftsmanship and the shared design of the village suggests a society that valued cooperation and community above all else. They lived together, worked together, and faced the challenges of their world as one. But this thriving community was about to face its greatest challenge yet. The biggest mystery of Skara Brae isn't how its people lived, but why they left. For centuries, the village was a bustling hub of life. Then, around 2500 BC, it was abandoned. But this was no hurried evacuation. There are no signs of battle, no bodies left behind, no evidence of a catastrophic fire. Instead, it seems the residents simply packed up their most precious belongings and walked away, leaving their homes to be gradually consumed by the shifting sands. Why? There are several compelling theories. One of the leading ideas is climate change. The weather in Orkney was becoming colder and wetter, making farming more difficult and life much harder. The encroaching sand, once a source of protection, may have become a relentless enemy, slowly burying their fields and homes. Perhaps the very sand that preserved the village for us is what drove its original inhabitants away. Another theory suggests a social shift. As new ideas and new people arrived in Orkney, perhaps the close-knit, communal way of life at Skara Brae became outdated. The younger generations might have been drawn to new, more individualistic styles of living being built elsewhere on the islands. It's possible the village was abandoned not because of disaster, but because of progress. Whatever the reason, their departure created a time capsule. As the last family left, closing the stone door on their home for the final time, they unknowingly preserved their world for us to discover thousands of years later, leaving us with the enduring, haunting question, why? So what is the legacy of Skara Brae today? It's more than just a collection of old stones. It's a profound connection to our distant ancestors. Designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Skara Brae is recognized as a place of outstanding universal value, a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit. It challenges our perceptions of the Stone Age, revealing a society that was organized, comfortable, and artistically expressive. Walking through its narrow alleyways, you feel an undeniable link to the people who walked these same paths 5,000 years ago. You can almost hear the echoes of children playing, the murmur of conversations, the crackle of the hearth fire. Skara Brae teaches us that community, innovation, and adaptation are timeless human traits. It also serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile our world can be, and how civilizations can be lost to the sands of time, whether literally or metaphorically. The story of Skara Brae is our story. It's a story of home, of community, and of the enduring quest to understand where we come from. The secrets of the stones are still being uncovered, and this incredible village continues to whisper its tales to anyone who will listen. Welcome to a world carved from stone, a place where daily life unfolded over 5,000 years ago. This is Skara Brae, a Neolithic village on the windswept coast of Scotland's Orkney Islands. For centuries, its secrets lay buried beneath sand dunes, until a storm in 1850 peeled back the layers of time, revealing one of Europe's most remarkable prehistoric sites. Today, we step back into that world to uncover the rhythms of a community that thrived at the edge of the world. From cooking on hearths to carving tools from flint, life here was shaped entirely by the land. Stepping into one of these ancient homes is like entering a time capsule. Look around. Everything is made of stone. The walls, the beds, the dressers, even the shelves. Stone. Orkney lacked large trees for timber, so the villagers became master stonemasons, using the flagstone that was readily available. Each house follows a similar design, a single, large square room with a central hearth that was the heart of the home. This fire provided warmth against the harsh Orkney winds, light during the long, dark winters, and a place to cook the family's meals. It was a hub of activity, where stories were told and the day's events were shared. The smoke would have escaped through a simple hole in the roof, which was likely made of turf, whalebone, and driftwood. Imagine the family gathered here. To either side of the hearth, you'll find stone-built beds. The larger one was likely for the parents, the smaller for the children. These weren't just cold stone slabs. They would have been filled with soft heather, bracken, and animal skins to create a warm and comfortable place to sleep. It's a surprisingly cozy setup, and notice the stone dressers, positioned directly opposite the entrance. This was a place of pride, used to display important or beautiful objects, perhaps polished stone bowls, intricate carvings, or tea family's finest pottery. It was the first thing a visitor would see upon entering, a statement about the family's status and identity. Life in Skara Brae was intricately tied to the sea. The village is perched right on the Bay of Scalo, and the ocean was their larder. Archaeological evidence shows they ate a lot of seafood. Fish like cod and saithe were staples, and the villagers were skilled at catching them. They also gathered shellfish from the rock pools at low tide. Limpets, crabs, and oysters were all on the menu. But their diet wasn't just seafood. They were also farmers, albeit on a small scale. They kept cattle and sheep, which provided them with milk, meat, and wool. These animals would have grazed on the lush grasslands surrounding the village. They also grew basic crops like barley and wheat, which they would grind into flour using stone. Foraging for wild plants, berries, and nuts would have supplemented their diet, especially during the summer months. So how did they cook all this food? We know they had the central hearth, but they also had some ingenious technology. In the floor of each house, you'll find stone boxers lined with clay to make them waterproof. These are known as limpet boxers, but they weren't for storing live limpets. Instead, they could be filled with water, and then hot stones from the fire would be dropped in to bring the water to a boil. It was a simple but effective way to cook stews or boil meat and vegetables. They also crafted their own pottery, known as grooved ware. These pots were large, bucket-shaped vessels, perfect for cooking over the fire or storing food. They were decorated with distinctive incised lines and patterns, showing a real sense of artistry. Creating the tools needed for daily survival was a constant task. The men and women of Skara Brae were skilled craftspeople. Flint was a precious resource, likely imported from other parts of Orkney or beyond. They expertly knapped it into sharp knives for butchering animals, scrapers for cleaning hides, and arrowheads for hunting. Bone and antler were also vital materials. They were carved into fine needles for sewing clothes from animal skins, awls for piercing leather, and pins to fasten their garments. Every part of an animal was used. Nothing went to waste. These weren't just functional objects. Many were beautifully made, showing the pride these people took in their work. While each house was a private family space, Skara Brae was a true community. The houses are linked by a series of low, covered passageways. Walking through them feels like navigating a stone warren. These passages protected the villagers from the relentless wind and rain, allowing them to move between homes and visit neighbors without stepping outside. It fostered a close-knit, communal way of life. Imagine children running through these passages, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. It suggests a society built on cooperation and social connection. The village wasn't just a collection of houses. It was a single, integrated structure. One building stands apart from the rest, as isolated from the main cluster of homes, and has a different internal layout. It lacks the typical beds and dresser. Instead, its floor is littered with the debris of tool-making, particularly chert, a type of stone similar to flint. This has led archaeologists to believe it was a communal workshop, a place where the villagers could gather to craft their tools, share skills, and work together on larger projects. It might have been a place where the village's best stoneworkers perfected their craft, shielded from the elements. This workshop highlights the importance of shared labor and specialized skills within the community. The artistry of Skara Brae's people wasn't limited to their tools. They left behind clues to a rich, symbolic, and creative world. Their grooved-ware pottery is the most obvious example, with its complex geometric designs. But they also carved strange, enigmatic symbols into the stone. Spirals, zigzags, and chevrons adorn the walls and furniture. We don't know what these symbols mean. Were they religious icons, clan markings, or simply decoration? The mystery makes them all the more fascinating. They also carved objects from stone and bone, including beads, pendants, and mysterious carved stone balls. These objects are found all over Neolithic Scotland, but their purpose remains unknown. Were they weapons, symbols of power, or tools for some unknown game? They're a tangible link to the beliefs and aesthetics of a people frozen in time. For over 600 years, this community thrived. But around 2500 BC, Skara Brae was abandoned. Why? The exact reason is still debated. For a long time, the romantic theory was that a single, catastrophic storm buried the village, forcing its inhabitants to flee. But modern archaeology suggests a more gradual process. The climate was changing, becoming colder and wetter. The sand dunes that had always protected the village began to encroach, slowly swallowing the fields and eventually the homes themselves. It seems the people of Skara Brae simply moved away over time, seeking better land and a more sustainable life elsewhere. The village wasn't destroyed in a day. It was slowly reclaimed by the nature that had shaped it. And so, the stone houses and their secrets were preserved beneath the sand for millennia. What we see today is a ghost village, weathered by the Orkney winds, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. It reminds us that even 5,000 years ago, people built homes, raised families, worked together, and created art. They lived complex lives, full of challenges and triumphs. Skara Brae is more than just an archaeological site. It's a profound connection to our deepest past, a story of daily life, written in stone. Have you ever wondered what it was like to live 5,000 years ago? Not in a drafty cave, but in a real functioning village, with stone furniture, plumbing, and a tight-knit community. Imagine this. It's 1850. A fierce storm batters the coast of Orkney, stripping away the grass and sand from a large mound known locally as Skara Brae. What the storm reveals is breathtaking, the outlines of stone dwellings, buried for millennia. This accidental discovery wasn't just a few old rocks. It was a perfectly preserved prehistoric village, a window into a lost world. It's so well preserved, it's often called the Scottish Pompeii. But instead of volcanic ash, it was a gentle blanket of sand that protected it, freezing a moment in Neolithic life. So, who were the people who lived here? They weren't primitive cave dwellers. They were sophisticated builders, farmers, and artisans. They lived in Skara Brae for about 600 years. From roughly 3180 BC to 2500 BC, that makes this village older than Stonehenge and even the Great Pyramids of Giza. This wasn't a temporary camp. It was a permanent, thriving settlement. Walking through Skara Brae today is an almost surreal experience. You're not just looking at ruins, you're walking down the same covered passageways that families used thousands of years ago. Let's step inside one of the houses. There are 8 of them clustered together, all remarkably similar in design. Each house is a single semi-subterranean room, dug into the earth to protect it from Orkney's harsh winds and cold. The first thing you notice is that everything is made of stone. The local flagstone splits into perfect, thin slabs, making it an ideal building material. In the center of each home is a large, square hearth, where a fire would have crackled day and night, providing warmth, light, and a place to cook. And then you see the furniture, also made of stone. Against one wall, you'll find a stone dresser. What archaeologists believe was the most important piece of furniture in the house. This wasn't just for storage. It was likely a place to display prized possessions, a symbol of the family's identity and status. Can you picture it? Polished stone axes, decorative pottery, or maybe intricate necklaces made of bone and animal teeth, all arranged carefully on its stone shelves. To either side of the hearth, you'll find stone slab beds. The one on the right is typically larger than the one on the left, leading to speculation that perhaps the man of the house slept in the larger bed. Or maybe it was reserved for the parents. They would have been filled with soft heather, bracken, and animal skins to make them comfortable and warm. It's a level of domestic comfort you just don't expect from the Stone Age. Some homes even have small stone tanks set into the floor. Archaeologists think these might have been used to hold live fish or shellfish, keeping them fresh until it was time to eat. A Neolithic refrigerator. Perhaps the most astonishing feature is the drainage system. A sophisticated network of stone-lined drains ran underneath the village, connecting the houses. Each house had a small drain hole in the corner, suggesting they had a form of indoor sanitation, likely a primitive toilet. This system would have carried waste away from the dwellings and out towards the sea. To have indoor plumbing 5,000 years ago is just mind. It speaks volumes about the ingenuity and advanced thinking of the people of Skara Brae. The entire village was shaped by the elements. The constant Orkney wind and the crashing waves of the nearby sea were a daily reality. The low-profile, earth-sheltered design of the houses was a direct response to this environment. The walls and passages weren't just built, they were sculpted by necessity, by a deep understanding of how to work with nature, not against it. This wasn't just architecture, it was a collaboration between human hands and the forces of the Orkney landscape. The wind that eventually helped uncover the village was the same wind its builders had so cleverly designed it to withstand. So, with such a well-established and sophisticated community, why was it abandoned? This is the ultimate mystery of Skara Brae. For a long time, the popular theory was a dramatic one. A sudden, catastrophic storm that forced everyone to flee, leaving their belongings behind. It's a romantic image, but the archaeological evidence tells a different story. It seems the abandonment was more gradual. The village was occupied for about 600 years, and over time, the sand and domestic waste built up, making life more difficult. The climate was also changing, becoming colder and wetter. The encroaching sand dunes might have slowly made farming and access to the sea more challenging. There was no single, dramatic event, but a slow, deliberate departure. They didn't flee in terror. They simply moved on, leaving their stone homes to be gently swallowed by the sand, hidden for the next 4,000 years. The reasons are still hidden in the stones, a final secret the village has yet to give up. Today, Skara Brae is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, part of the heart of Neolithic Orkney, along with other incredible monuments like the Ring of Bragr and the Michaud-chambered tomb. It offers us a unique and intimate glimpse into the daily lives of our distant ancestors. It challenges our perceptions of the Stone Age, revealing a society that was organized, artistic, and incredibly innovative. They were people like us, who built homes, raised families, created art, and looked for comfort and meaning in their world. Visiting Skara Brae is more than just an archaeological tour. It's a journey that connects you to a deep and ancient past. As you stand there with the wind whipping around you and the sound of the sea in your ears, you can almost hear the echoes of life from 5,000 years ago, the laughter of children playing in the passageways, the crackle of the hearth fire, and the murmur of stories being told in a long-forgotten language. It's a powerful reminder that while times change, the fundamental human desire for home, community, and beauty is truly timeless. Well, what if I told you that some of the most profound life lessons come not from a self-help guru, but from a 5,000-year-old village, uncovered by a freak storm? We're traveling back in time to the windswept Orkney Islands of Scotland, to a place called Skara Brae. And believe me, the secrets buried in its stone walls are more relevant to our lives today than you could ever imagine. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a blueprint for a more resilient, ingenious, and harmonious way of living. In the winter of 1850, a ferocious storm battered the Scottish coast. The wind and waves were so violent, they stripped the earth from a large mound known locally as Skara Brae. When the storm subsided, locals discovered something incredible: the outlines of stone dwellings, perfectly preserved beneath the sand. A village lost for millennia was suddenly whispering its secrets to the 19th century. This wasn't just a random collection of rocks. It was a complete, intact community, frozen in time. The people who lived here vanished around 2500 BC, but they left behind their homes, their furniture, and a powerful story of survival. Its preservation is mind-blowing. Because it was buried in sand for over 4,000 years, we have an unparalleled window into Neolithic life. We're not just guessing what their houses looked like. We can walk through them, and what we find inside is a masterclass in ingenuity. The houses were sunk into the ground for insulation against the brutal Orkney winds. They were connected by covered passageways. These people had a place for everything. Each house features a central hearth for warmth and cooking. Beds built into the walls, larger on one side, smaller on the other, perhaps for adults and children, and even stone dressers. Yes, 5,000-year-old fitted furniture. This wasn't just about survival. It was about comfort, organization, and creating a true home. Let's talk about that ingenuity. The people of Skara Brae had no metal tools. Everything you see was built using bone, wood, and other stones. They were master stonemasons, creating interlocking structures that have stood the test of time. Their dresser, the centerpiece of the home, was a status symbol, a place to display prized possessions. They also had tanks set into the floor, lined with clay to be waterproof. Archaeologists believe these might have been used for keeping fish or shellfish fresher. Prehistoric refrigerator. Even more amazing is their sanitation system. Some historians suggest that channels running beneath the village may have functioned as a primitive sewer system, carrying waste away from the homes. This level of planning and engineering is astonishing for the period. When we compare Skara Brae to other Neolithic sites in Europe, its uniqueness really shines. Many contemporary settlements, like the longhouses of Central Europe, were built from wood and wattle and daub. They've long since rotted away, leaving only post holes and faint outlines for archaeologists to interpret. But at Skara Brae, The lack of large trees forced the inhabitants to become experts in stone. This environmental constraint sparked incredible creativity. The result is a much more vivid picture of daily life. While other sites give us clues about farming or burial practices, Skara Brae gives us the living room. It shows us where people slept, where they gathered, and how they organized their personal space. It's the difference between reading the table of contents and reading the entire book. And what about their lifestyle? The evidence suggests they were a community of equals. The 8 houses are remarkably similar in size and layout, suggesting a lack of a rigid social hierarchy. There's no chief's palace or king's mansion. This was likely a group of families living and working together, sharing resources and knowledge. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They lived in harmony with their harsh environment, not by trying to conquer it, but by cleverly adapting to it. They used the earth for shelter, the sea for food, and the windswept landscape as their home. So, what are the big life lessons we can take from these ancient stones? First, resilience. The people of Skara Brae faced a challenging environment, but they didn't give up. They used what they had to build a stable, comfortable community that lasted for 600 years. It's a powerful reminder that our limitations can often be the source of our greatest strengths. When faced with a problem, we can find ingenious solutions. Second, community. In our increasingly isolated world, Skara Brae shows us the strength of living connectedly. The shared passageways and similar homes speak to a life of mutual support and cooperation. They understood that they were stronger together. And finally, harmony with nature. The villagers didn't exploit their environment. They partnered with it. They built into the land, used local materials, and lived according to the seasons. They left behind a village, not a wasteland. Their carbon footprint was practically zero. In an age of climate change and environmental crisis, this is perhaps the most urgent lesson of all. Skara Brae teaches us that human progress doesn't have to mean environmental destruction. We can innovate and thrive while still respecting the planet that sustains us. It's a philosophy of sustainable living, written in stone 5,000 years ago. Today, modern architects and designers study Skara Brae for inspiration. They look at its use of local materials, its passive insulation techniques, and its human-centric design. It's a masterclass in creating sustainable and community-oriented architecture. Historians and archaeologists continue to analyze the artifacts, uncovering more about the social structure, beliefs, and daily rituals of these incredible people. The mysterious carved stone balls found at the site, for instance, still puzzle experts. Were they weapons, tools, or ceremonial objects? Each new discovery adds another layer to the story. The end of Skara Brae is as mysterious as its beginning. Around 2500 BC, the village was abandoned. Why? We don't know for sure. There's no evidence of a battle or a catastrophe. The leading theory is that the climate changed, the weather grew colder and wetter, and the encroaching sand dunes made life increasingly difficult. It seems that people simply packed up and moved on, seeking a more hospitable home. But they left behind a timeless legacy. They left a story not of kings and wars, but of ordinary people living extraordinary lives. A story of ingenuity, resilience, and community. Next time you feel overwhelmed by the complexities of modern life, think of Skara Brae. Think of the stone beds, the central hearth, and the covered passageways. Remember that, for centuries, a community thrived on a windswept island, using their creativity and cooperation to build a good life. The stones still speak, reminding us of a simpler, more connected way of being. They are a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and our ability to create a home, no matter the circumstances. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. What do you think is the most amazing part of Skara Brae? The stone furniture, the plumbing, or the mystery of its abandonment? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more adventures into the past. See you next time.